Welcome to Kowski's Talking About Life podcast. I am your host, Ian on Twitter. I am at KOWSKY_ETH. As always, we start Kowski's Talking About Life's podcast by thanking the audience. We appreciate you for listening in and watching. We also thank God, energy, source, the universe, whatever higher power, oneness you believe there is, if you so do. And then, of course, we thank the guest. If there's no guest, there's no show. We have a prestigious guest today on our show. Incredibly honored. So, Andy, let's just kick it. How are you doing today, and how are you doing in general?
I'm doing really well, Ian. Thank you, one, for having me on the podcast, inviting me on the podcast. This is a long time coming, but honored to be here, man, and I'm just happy to be a guest.
Awesome. So, like I said, we always kick off the show talking about people's passions and positivity. I know you are the president of VeeFriends, a company that is rooted, of course, in positivity. But what about Andy? Like, outside of VeeFriends, what are your personal passions? And they could have crossover with VeeFriends. Maybe that's what led you in. That would make sense. But what are your personal passions as who you were before VeeFriends and Gary Vee and all that?
Yeah, I've always been passionate about art and storytelling and creativity and karma and positivity. Um, I love exercise and thinking about mental health and how all the things that I just mentioned affect mental health. And generally, I'm just passionate about trying to live a happy and fulfilled life with the people that I have around me on a daily basis.
Love that. Now, people have different motivations for being positive. Obviously, not everyone is equally as positive. For you, where does that come from? Is it from religion, sense of community, sense of family, parents instilled it into you? Where does that drive root?
I think it's a combination, it's the cliche like nature nurture. I spend a lot of time thinking about some of the adversities I experienced as a child and as an adolescent growing up, and how much that grounded me in being an ambitious and positive person. And I just think it's like, you don't ever want to wish adversity on anybody, but at the same time, I'm entering a period in my life now when I'm thinking about like, parenthood and like, will I ever have children and things of that nature? And I really think about how could I best parent? And I always think about adversity and how could I challenge my kids, but also nurture them and make them feel safe.
Yeah, of course. It's interesting. I was actually watching a clip from this either CIA agent or ex-CIA agent where they explain that a commonality among incredibly successful people is that there's a midpoint of trauma where if you don't have enough trauma, like it won't push you, it won't give you that like chip on your shoulder. But if you have too much trauma, you could turn to substances or you could become self-destructive. If you have just the right amount of trauma or adversity, what you're saying, that it's not only like help, it's like almost necessary to become successful according to what he was talking about. So I find that interesting. um
Yeah, just to piggyback off it, I was watching a clip too. I totally agree with you, and that's what I was referencing. And I was seeing Andrew Huberman, I think it was maybe, um, talk about positive reinforcement. And they did two case studies with children that took a test. And after that first test, there was two different groups. People, one group of children were given positive reinforcement based around their innate talent. There's, hey, you're so smart, you did such a great job. You're so capable, you did such a good job. Things of that nature. And then the other group was, hey, you worked so hard. Hey, you put in so much effort. Hey, you just a lot. Then they did a second test with those individuals. The group that got the positive reinforcement around work ethic and more emotional soft skills well over indexed, they performed even more. And the other group actually performed dramatically less.
yeah, I think I had heard that. It's funny because once you give them that, like, okay, you're smart, they're like, all right, cool, I don't have to try anymore, I'm good, I'll just do fine the next time. It's like a false security blanket.
100%.
Next question I was going to ask, do you have any adversity that you could speak through, anything that sticks out that is just like an anecdotal Andy moment that kind of forced this or catalyzed this positivity perspective?
Yeah, I always describe, I remember in college, my freshman year of college, we had like the end of year English assignment was this big paper. that we had to write on ourselves describing who we were. And I didn't get, I think I might have got a B or something, but I thought I did a really good job. But her criticism of the paper was that I didn't tell the reader about Andy. I told them about my family. But what I was trying to do, like when I explain myself by way of explaining my family because it's really impacted who I am today and how I grew up. I was raised really by my mother, and I'm the youngest of three boys. And so just watching my mom work her ass off every day to be, the primary income earner for our family while also parenting three boys was no small task. And like through that, I learned a lot through my brothers and their mishaps. I learned a lot through my mom. And it really fueled me. Like seeing your parents work their ass off when you are a kid, to me was like the biggest motivation of like, I can't wait to fucking work. Like I just wanted it. Like I wanted, like it's the cliche thing. Like you hear artists and rappers talk about it, is like just be able to say like, "Mama, we did it." Like I always just wanted to be able to tell my mom like she infused in me a work ethic and ambition to just like prove to the world that I'm such a capable young man because of her, but also to like be able to put her at ease and like you can just chill now, everything's good.
Yeah, and that makes sense hearing that from you because we all hear, from Gary his story, and you have a similar story. You have a similar motivation for success. You had this strong, positive role model that you wanted to give back to because you had that deep sense of gratitude. So I think that's phenomenal. For me, it's a little bit different. My parents were successful, and it's like I didn't see them working as hard. They're divorced, so it was like it was almost like the smart kid thing. I was like, all right, we're okay, we're good, so I didn't feel like as driven. But then later in life, it came from kind of going to college and then separating, getting on my own, and then I did kind of find that like, oh well, like I'm not just someone's kid. Like who am I? That was like my urge to kind of prove myself.
Yeah. And it's weird, like Gary has talked about this thing, what he calls like the immigrant mentality, and he had like I've never tried to take it granted for the privilege that I have as I'm a white male in America. Like in so many ways, I've won the lottery. With
And
that,
you're
there's
pretty
still,
tall.
yeah, I'm tall, yeah. Uh,
Gary would kill for that.
but there's just something to it. And like he had it, it's why Gary is who he is. Like, of course, whether you want to call it adversity, but just like trials and tribulations of escaping from Soviet Russia to come to America to live in a small studio apartment in Queens and to not even really learn English and figure out how to learn this other language and like make it in America. Boy, if you're blessed with the right DNA, could you see like how that could really fuel someone to become the communicator, the entrepreneur, the motivator that is Gary Vee today?
People are like, "Who's Gary Vee?" If they don't know, I'm like, "Have you ever heard of the American Dream?" Okay, yeah, that lemonade stand, baseball card, like the whole shebang. That.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
100%.
100%.
Um, Another thing I wanted to ask you. So I love VeeFriends. You love VeeFriends. You're president of VeeFriends. Did you have interest growing up or at any point? Like I loved Pokemon. I loved Yu-Gi-Oh. Like I had interest in these other kind of shows with these mystical characters or animal or Digimon, talking animals, all these sorts of things. Would you find that's a passion you shared as well? Were you like a Pokemon guy kind of thing? Are you still into that or anything of that nature?
I didn't get into Pokemon. I had friends that were into Pokemon. I was definitely into sports cards, baseball cards specifically. I loved the Power Rangers. Overarchingly, though, I think my deepest early connection with who I was as a child and who I was growing up to VeeFriends is storytelling. The art of a book or the impact a book or a movie or a single show uh, and what it can do for an individual, I have the utmost respect, appreciation, admiration, and desire to do that for others.
Here's a question I have, and I don't expect like a serious answer, not alpha,
Yeah.
but I see myself at a VeeFriends amusement park one day. I've heard Gary allude to it. Would you agree that without giving someone a date or any promises, could we, if we were dreamers, dream that if everything goes incredibly well, this is maybe one day, maybe 55 years, whatever it is, what we're looking at?
Of course, like I think everyone's heard Gary's ambitions of what he aspires to build VeeFriends or what he aspires for VeeFriends to become. Um, and it's all of that. It's a multimedia, transmedia company where we're storytelling not just through social media content, through long form content, through audio, written content, but also through experiential, not just as a business conference in VCon, but amusement parks, slides, other ways to bring to life this IP and what it represents in ways for people to experience it.
Awesome. Another question on VeeFriends. So my perspective on it. People sometimes don't have the faith. I feel like I have it. I just believe in the project. I believe in you. I believe in Gary. I believe in the community. I've had wonderful connections, experiences, magical moments with people. As a project, not everyone is on the same page 100%. And in the terms of doubters, people are wondering, what are they doing to spread the project and raise the floor price? My perspective on VeeFriends. I think VeeFriends is a brand. I know VeeFriends is a brand. People go, VeeFriends is an NFT. VeeFriends is an NFT. The VeeFriends NFT was perhaps the door, the gateway into the VeeFriends brand. But what I see happening is Gary is strategically partnering to plant seeds over a longer period of time where all of these different collaborations are hitting different avenues and intersections of people. So you have the trading cards, that's one whole area of people, that's one seed. Then you had, I think, Kim Shui, if I'm saying that right, that's high fashion, right? Then the alert jacket, that's fashion as well, but kind of a different type of fashion. That's a little bit old school, appeals to a different market. Then there was the vitamins, right? You said health was one of your passions. Then you have the health side of that. So kids multivitamins, accountable. All of these little seeds throughout every Macy's. Kids could go into Macy's. Parent might not even know what VeeFriends is. Kid goes, I like that one. Squishmallows. So would you agree that I'm kind of interpreting this right? That patience is the name of the game here, and these seeds are going to plant and grow. But what people sometimes think, they're looking for is to go all in on only one area, so you could see that quick like sugar rush pump. And I'm thinking that's not like a missed like thought. It's intentional that we don't want a sugar rush pump. We want to plant that bamboo. Bamboo grows, I think, 5 years under the ground, and you don't see it at all. And then, like in a month, it starts growing like a foot a day or something. Like I'm probably quoting it wrong, but it's like it grows super fast up. Would you say that's kind of was that accurate?
Yeah, I think it's a good articulation, and you name dropped a lot of the different areas and collaborations that we've launched over the last 24 months. It's about meeting consumers where they are and different types of consumers, whether it's streetwear, culture with Anwar carrots, or Squishmallows with the Squishmallows audience in plushies and collectibles, or sports cards, sorry, trading cards, going to the national,
What's a sport?
where we have to go to the collector's audience. It's all about whether you're VeeFriends or a different brand or IP, how can you storytell, create awareness and content or products with those audiences in the areas that they're hanging out and spending their time?
Love it. This is a bit of a curveball question, but going back to the Squishmallows Karma Kiwi, you mentioned in the beginning that one of your influences was karma. People define karma in many different ways. What is karma for you?
Karma is receiving what you put out.
Now, immediately, 55 years, 10 years, like more to it, or just in a general sense?
In a general sense, another one of my favorite quotes is, whatever you think the world is withholding from you, you are withholding from the world. When people look at what they lack, they experience lack. When you really just look at what you have around you and you see the abundance that you have around you, you experience abundance. The more that what you give out, what you give to the universe, what you give to your neighbor, what you give to your partners is generally what you receive back. Whether it's magic or God or just the universal rule of karma, I'm not sure. I just believe and understand that generally speaking, what you give, you get back.
I love it. So, in terms of what you, Andy, want to give to the world, to the universe, to people through VeeFriends, you did touch on it a little bit. You want to light up the kids' faces, you want to get out the positive values. But is there anything like, do you see Do you see anything that's Andy specific, perhaps, or something that you really want to spearhead that, like, VeeFriends is huge. You're the president. I'm sure you're delegating and different people are accountable for different things. Is there something that, you kind of want to put Andy on?
It's a good question. I think I have a pretty unique story. I think how I got to the role that I'm in today is pretty unique. And I just want to encourage others to be themselves and to keep believing themselves and to understand that what you give and what you put out in the universe will come back to you. Um, and I hope to do that for a very long time. I'm big on life longevity. I think as a 35-year-old, I would love to have another century on this earth. And if you think about the experience and lessons that I've had in 35 years, if you multiply that by three, I can't wait to be 99 and sitting on a bench with you and talking about all the shit we've learned and how much value we have to give to others. The 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 planet is going through an extreme amount of change. 20 years from now, how people are communicating, uh, what our economies look like, what our education looks like, is going to be night and day from today. I don't know what that will look like or entail, but I also know that the lessons we've learned and the patterns we've lived through over the course of our lives will be imperative to be able to share with others that are younger than us that need help or guidance. And I feel excited and confident in my ability and in the VeeFriends community's ability to be able to help navigate that change and be leaders within their communities.
I agree with that 100%. Now, this is a story I'm a bit familiar with. Um, I think it always helps to repeat it. I've even seen Gary say sometimes you got to put out the same message a few times. It hits different ways, different people, different times. But you've kind of talked about obviously karma, putting out positivity, and getting it back. Now, I believe there's a story, if I'm getting it right, I'll let you tell it, where you put out a tweet to let Gary know you were looking to work for him for free. And that led to this wonderful journey. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Exactly what happened. I learned of Gary through Wine Library TV. So that's how I followed him on Twitter. And then as I started to become more entrepreneurial curious, as Web 2 was really starting to take hold through WordPress and Twitter, I became really interested on like learning about these people making money online. And through that, I started seeing Gary record selfie videos, talk about he's going to be a serial entrepreneur and I'm going to build a big business in front of everybody's face. And I'm going to do it raw and rugged and authentic in my way. And people don't understand the revolution we're living through with peer communication and communication at scale across all these different channels. And I watched that video and I just thought, wow, like I'd never seen someone so uh, contemporary in communicating such thoughtful and thought-provoking ideas in a simple and understandable and relatable way. To the point that one day I saw him tweet, "What can I do for you?" And I was just at a crossroad where I realized like the business that I was trying to build wasn't going to play out because I just didn't have the experience or know-how or expertise, and I really should try to team up with someone or work for someone that could that I could grow under. And he tweeted, "What can I do for you for today?" Someone said I was hungry. Gary responded, "What's your address?" I looked back at the tweet like 5 minutes later and I saw that guy take a photo of a hamburger sitting outside his apartment doorstep. And I immediately was just like, fuck, man, this guy Gary is really, really
He's for real.
responding to his community. He's a real dude. And so I just was like, you know what? And I tweeted a chance to work for free. And it's funny because I didn't even, like, I was shocked when he responded to me. You know, I tweeted it and 30 seconds later he said, "What do you mean? Like expand?" And I responded back like, "I just want a chance to prove myself. I'm capable, hungry. Like, give me a project and I'll make you impressed." And then he said, "Email me." I emailed him, try to write the best email of my life as fast as possible. Um, and after a week, I didn't get a response back. That whole week, I'm like talking to my mom, I'm talking to my brother. I'm like, "Yo, Gary Vee responded to my tweet." They're like, "Hey, what are you talking about? You need to send applications to these government contracting firms in DC. Stop worrying about some Twitter guy." And then 3 months later, I got a response from Gary asking me if I could live in New York and if I would be an intern for his book, Jab, 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 Right Hook.
That's amazing. So What was that experience like? What was it like from going, I guess, to not knowing, Gary Vee beyond the celebrity to all of a sudden being like inside the machine and then working on the project?
This is 2013, so this is before Facebook had ads, before Facebook had video. It's still really early, but I had no idea just how authentic Gary was. I'm not from New York, um, so I was still learning like how to navigate the city. I didn't work for free. I made $7.25 an hour, which was minimum wage at the time. So there's a lot of emotions. It was like trying to figure out how I could be a professional, but also I was just even more impressed with Gary. Like I always remember day one, he asked me to come up into his office and like shook my hand and said hello to me. I'm so fucking nervous. Like I'm just so happy to be there and all I want to do is work hard and make sure that I don't fuck up the opportunity. But he was just so human. He's like, so nice to meet you, Andy. Like, welcome to the team. And I was just shocked at how human he was. And then over the course of, next 6 months, people are comfortable in their own skin and they like what they do. It's amazing what they're able to achieve and how much positive energy they can put off. And that's the uh the frequency that Gary's on.
Yeah. Like, question I have for you. Jeremy mentioned that, like, after his first day beating Gary and coming in, he was like, I think it was nationals, like months after, like, that was, I think, my first 15 minutes with Gary, like, like even after VCon. Um, was it the same way back then, or was it more personal? Because obviously it wasn't, on the scale.
Both. Like he's
But
always been busy, it's exponential now for sure. And I was still Jeremy's works at VeeFriends. VeeFriends, is a 40 plus person company. There's a lot happening. It's one of the companies that Gary oversees and manages. Um, I was on a three-person team directly on Team Gary or the Gary brand,
right.
so I was a little more direct into reporting to him.
When you were working with him, were there lessons that you learned from him that perhaps you noticed you hadn't seen in his online content or content at the time? Or was the experience everything he said online was exactly who he was in person?
Really, the latter, just on steroids. You just don't understand the scale. Like you don't like people to this day come in the office and are surprised that Gary's on social media himself.
Right.
Like they're like, "What? Gary does that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what do you mean?" They're like, "Oh, I just figured like it's all." I'm like, "No, like he's in it. Like he really it is that. It's 7 days a week all the time. Like it's really atypical. Uh, but he loves the dirt, and the dirt is what makes him dangerous. The dirt, the pressing the buttons, the being in the conversations, the being in the discords, in the Slacks, in the emails is how you actually get the consumer data and insights to be able to navigate business at the highest level to really understand what's happening on the ground floor.
I love it. Now, from your perspective, as the president of VFriends, if someone does want to come work for VFriends or Gary Vee or one of the companies or projects in some way, they're not in a position where they could work for free. What's the best way? Is it just applying, or what would really catch your attention? What would get that spark? What would show you or Gary, wow, this is what we need to take notice of beyond just submit the resume sort of deal? Or is there anything you would speak to on that?
Yeah, it's like it would come down to one, applying, two, being proactive. And the biggest one for me and advice I would have as someone that was an intern, and most of my DMs are people just asking like, "Hey, can I get a job?" Um, which doesn't impress me because they're like, "Hey, where can I apply?" I'm like, if you're asking me where you can apply, like you're already out of the list of like being thoughtful and proactive and taking initiative on yourself. Versus what I would love to see is, hey, either I saw this job listing and I applied. Here's what else I would like you to know and why I think you should hire me. Or, hey, I was looking at the job listing. I didn't see this job, which I think could really service the business because this is the experience I have and this is what I think it would provide. But a lot of people, as like you're a college grad, you don't have that much experience. You just graduated college. How are you going to get hired? All these resumes or job applications say they need 2 to 3 years, but it's entry level, and you're like, what the fuck? How can I get this job? I don't,
Right.
you have to do what I did, which is get the experience, and you have to get the experience at the cost of time or money. You want to work at VaynerX as a creator, or you want to work at a brand as a photographer. Start building an Instagram account with your photography work, or start being a creator, looking at an application and actually having links to work that shows they can do the job. But the thing that I'm really harping on right now is that that doesn't need to be something that you worked on for a company. You can build the experience without needing the permission to do so. You don't need to get hired by a company to prove to me that you can make TikTok content for a product. I mean, it's a case by case basis based on the job and the business need and how we're thinking about producing or fulfilling the need we have for that role, in a short answer.
Fair enough. Let's throw it back for a minute to VCon. We were both there. We met each other. It was a pleasure to run into you. But what was, if not that exact moment, if what was one of your favorite parts, or what was your favorite part of VCon? And again, it's not a favorite part. I know it was huge, but some of them maybe.
It's cliche to say, honestly, but it really is seeing you and saying hello and then being able to hit the follow button on Twitter. It is, like, it's just because I see all these people on Discord. I interact with them. I interact with people on Twitter and Instagram. But to be able to put the face to the handle, or to be able to actually let them know that, like, I see you and I know who you are and I appreciate you, and you responding or amplifying the VeeFriends message means not a lot just to me, but the entire VeeFriends team is everything. It's like that is the ultimate uh, value that I get out of VCon. Um, and aside from that, it's just seeing the enjoyment, like knowing that halfway through field day on Thursday, I knew we crushed that day and we were about to crush the next days. And it just is such a rewarding experience to know that you work so hard on something for so long with a big team and that it's working and that the people that you're putting that on for like it. Like it's just really, really dope and special and something that hopefully we can continue to do for a long time.
Oh, I didn't like it. I absolutely loved it. And to your point, it was phenomenal running into you. And I was like, "Hey, Andy, like you said you were gonna follow me if I ran into you." And then you were like, "Yeah, yeah, I remember. I know who you are." I was like, "You do?" Like I wasn't I believed you would do it, but I wasn't 100% sure or expecting you would remember who I was or whatever. Like it was that moment. And I was so grateful to have you remember. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
What are your thoughts about next year's VCon? Um, Maybe not in terms of like location or anything like that, but like, is there a mission statement behind it? Like, do you feel like VCon year one was setting the tone? Year two was perhaps working on things that you got feedback from last year, implementing them, improving. But then year three is kind of like this as far as we know the last year. So is there going to be a different approach in any ways you could communicate?
Um, I thought VCon first year we were trying to really understand and build what VCon is. Like we didn't know what VCon is. We knew what we thought it was, like Coachella meets South by Southwest meets Davos. Um, but I feel like we were trying to figure out what VCon is in the first year, and we put that on. We're like, okay, it has collectibles and it has cards in it. Okay, it has an ungodly amount of really talented and impressive speakers. It has the most passionate and kind and dope community in the world. It has evening acts and performance entertainments. Let's figure out how to produce that. VCon 2, we knew what VCon was, we were trying to figure out what it could become. And I feel like we did that with the notoriety of speakers that we had, adjusted programming, more thoughtful approach on how we were doing the stages. And I think for the last year, we're just going to even fine tune it further and really show and exemplify what VCon is in full. And I'm really excited about that. And it's a super conference dedicated to business, marketing, innovation, technology, and popular culture, and home to the VeeFriends community.
Yeah, I love the way you said that. When I hear people perhaps inviting other people to come to VCon or into the community, again, it's they're leading with that NFT aspect, and that's cool if you're talking to other people who are into crypto and Web3 already. But I find that people who aren't already, weren't just have never heard about it, they've kind of decided not to. And I got my mom to come with me to VCon this year. And when I told her about it, I wasn't really saying like, yeah, mom, it's all about NFTs, about NFTs, NFT, Web3, crypto. I was like, Ma, Gary Vee, right? And she had, she's a businesswoman. She has a company. She's, eyes to the internet on new techniques, tactics, learning from inspirational people. And I was like, yeah, Gary Vee's holding a conference with a bunch of speakers. There's going to be, Andrew Schultz, like comedians, singers, live entertainment. It's this VeeFriends things I like, oh yeah, that NFT thing I like. But really, it's this mega event, for business and meeting people and networking and entertainment and so much more. And I love that that's exactly what you said, because I think, yeah, I believe you when you present it that way, it's appetizing to the world.
100%. Yeah. Much like VeeFriends, I think VeeFriends isn't specifically a Web3 company. VeeFriends is an IP and entertainment company that is Web3 enabled. VCon is Web3 enabled. Our tickets are issued as NFTs for uh, the 3 years for VeeFriends Series 1 holders. And it's overreaching. It's touched all aspects of business and industry, and it's why it's such a cool and unique event. It's not South by Southwest, and it's not a specific trade industry type event. It's an event unlike any other. I've never been to an event like VCon where I'm seeing Busta Rhymes one night, and then I'm seeing Jesse Itzler, and then every other big entrepreneur lay down facts and just like give value of how they've navigated their professional careers.
I love it. Now, in terms of the VeeFriends and the stories and the character development, do you yourself, before VeeFriends, do you consider yourself like a cinephile? Like, are you like a series guy? Do you watch like TV shows? Like, you said, I think, books before. Do you either have like a favorite book, or TV show or movie that, even if it's not tied to VeeFriends, that in some way either is tied to VeeFriends and shares the inspiration, or just throughout your life or at the time really inspired you?
Dr. Seuss and Dr. Seuss books as a kid were magical. Like, uh, what's it? Oh, the places you'll go. All the books I read as a child, James and the Giant Peach, Charlie and the
Boys.
Chocolate Factory, the Harry Potter novels. Um, they transplant you into a different world. It can be escapism, but it also can be inspiration and motivating, uh, which is cool. But I love the context of what stories can do for you, but then my experience over the last 10 years applying that to the mobile phone. And that's really where a lot of the consumption is happening. And that's the digital revolution we're living through right now, where, you know, TikTok is a competitor to movie theaters because kids just spend more time. They spend 7 hours a day looking at their TikTok, and they'd rather just watch their favorite TikTok influencers than go to the movies, which is
Right.
mind blowing, but that's what's happening. So it's about, both, but really how can you tell stories right now in the state and form and fashion that they're being most consumed, which is 30 to 45-second videos.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. That it's a societal change. Attention span is shifting. People want to, stay at home more. People, in some ways, are becoming more isolated. It's that double-edged sword idea of technology, where it could bring us together, and social media networking. But yeah, these kids who are, not using it that way and just living in a TikTok world, it's interesting. Would you see other ways beyond the events that we're already aware of, where everyone's on TikTok where or Snapchat where a pin drops or something and you see it on your map and you're incentivized to go there if you're a VeeFriends in the area, or I'm just kind of brainstorming, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm proud, and I think it's pretty cool what we were able to do with our Reebok collaboration, where they gave us the ability to be a retailer ourselves and do a token gated pre-sale to people that own VeeFriends NFTs. And I feel like there's a bunch of different ways now and over the course of the next decade by which we'll be able to identify who is in the VeeFriends community. That could just be via email, not even necessarily a token, and put together different forms of gatherings, utility, product, and other ways to just continue to build the notoriety and brand and IP of VeeFriends.
Now, speaking back for a second about the cards, I did want to ask you: are you playing the game? Are you playing with the new rules? Are you loving it? Are you winning? Are you a shark? Are you good at it?
I will be honest with you. I've played maybe 10 games.
Okay.
Um, I've really enjoyed every game that I've played. I really enjoyed last night. Shout out yourself and everyone else in the community that's been playing the game. I enjoyed watching Josh Courage's live stream last night when they were playing the game. I think the game has a lot of legs to it. And by that, I mean, I think it has a wide age demo. I think as I was watching last night, grown men paying complete and collect, there might be wagers involved. It feels a lot like poker. I think we'll have and continue to have success. I also feel like I watched 8-year-olds quickly become obsessed with playing the game, and teaching others how to play the game. And it's exciting to know that the game has traction, and within the game, they will be trying to articulate and talk about ambitious angel or authentic anaconda or karma kiwi or intuitive iguana. And by way of that, learn a little bit more about those traits and the values behind those traits and what they represent.
Now, would you have a preference between the first version of the game with the war style as compared to this, or do you like them both equally?
Um, this might be a little bit of alpha for you. Like honestly, I like them equally. I think competing the gameplay that we've developed, that we spent a lot of time, we worked with experts to build that game. It's a real game, and we're going to promote that game. There's a lot more to come with Compete and Collect, but I also think Compete and Collects themselves can be just played with War, and there's probably 4 or 5 other game style plays that you could play with Compete and Collect that serve as value to interact with your family members, with your friends. Um, the cards were built to be able to be playable in different ways. One, two, three, flip it over, take the other player's cards. I think we'll continue to have uh, gameplay, but I also know that what we're building with the new beta gameplay is also very meaningful.
I love that. I personally, I was not a huge fan of the war style game. It was just not my cup of tea,
It's
so to
simple. It's
speak.
very war, yeah.
Yeah, but when this new one came out, like I saw it online and it just looked really fun, and I was like, "Ooh, if that's as fun as it looks." And then when I got a chance to play, I was like, "Oh my god, it's as fun as it looks!" Like I think you said it, whatever. Pokemon meets poker. Like, yeah, dude, that's exactly what it is. When I was telling someone about the game who had never heard of it, was that in poker, one of the most exciting parts of the game is the call. Everyone reveals their hands, and you're like, "Did I win or not?" And I'm like, when you're playing compete and collect, you're calling every card is a call every single time, and there's like a little build up, and then you're calling, and it's like I don't know, dude. I love that part of it. So to just have like rapid fire call, 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 call,
Brother,
call, and did I win? Did I win? Like I don't know, dude.
that's such
I'm
a
a high
good
energy guy. I love it.
That's such a good articulation and analogy, and it's exactly right. It's why when we were at the National this year, we hosted our first ever inaugural Compete and Collect tournament. When I tell you that my stomach was in a knot, I wasn't even playing, but I had the luxury of like I would look at both players' cards, and as the rounds advance, like you're in the semifinals, and I'm watching their cards, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm too fucking nervous. Like I was feeling for both sides, but it was so fun and interesting and engaging to watch because you are always having to make that call. and you're always knowing like, shit, am I playing it right? Am I actually reading what I think that player is going to do? And it's strategic. There's so many opportunities to either play it wrong or right based on how you're reading the player and how you're reading the board and your own cards.
I absolutely love it. But what you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, is this year at the Nationals, the strong focus, as far as I noticed, was on the new cards, was on the new gameplay. I did not see anyone playing the war style. But
I played it with Ed Reed.
oh, nice.
Do you know
Okay,
who
so
Ed
then
Reed is?
no.
Ed Reed is arguably one of the best football players ever. He
Oh,
was
I'm
a
not a big sports
safety.
guy.
He was a safety for the Baltimore Ravens. I was like ecstatic. I couldn't believe that Ed Reed was at the VeeFriends booth and that I was playing VeeFriends War with him.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, I'm not huge on sports, like, or I like UFC, I like some stuff. I did see when Marshawn Lynch was at the booth. So then, yeah, so people were still playing it. So there would be a focus then as it goes. Perhaps there's different tournaments or within one kind of tournament setting where people are playing different styles.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Um, what is your favorite? I feel like someone's probably asked you that.
You know, I used to have a real favorite VeeFriends, which I'll tell you, but now I've like I really they feel like children to me, all of them. Honestly, that's what Gary used to say, and I didn't feel like that. But now I really love all of them. And my favorite part is just trying to continue to build every one of them and see how uh, different audiences, different individuals, our community react to which one their favorite VFriend is and why. I'm really bullish on like what character are you a maxi for and why. I think it has a competitive nature to it. I also think people most identify with it. My favorite V Friends is Forever Phoenix. Uh, Gary gifted me a Forever Phoenix Go after we minted V Friends Series 1. And I know the story or the what I believe to be the meaning and symbolism of Forever Phoenix. And it really resonates with me as an individual. And of course, the fact that Gary gifted it to me means the world to me. So just really, I like that character.
Is the meaning and the symbolism you mean of the Phoenix character in general, or is there a angle Gary has on it?
Well, Gary has a lot of clips where he talks about he would always envision or fantasize about all his businesses going to zero and then rising like a phoenix to remind everybody that he is as capable as you think he is in building businesses. And I just respect it. Like I will always have a mentality of being ready for anything at any moment and ready to work hard and to achieve whatever is necessary. Um, so I like that.
Now, have you ever thought about? You mentioned that you were, I believe, a fan of Harry Potter. Have you ever thought about how you have the Phoenix, and there was that moment in Harry Potter where the Phoenix, like, I think, comes out of the Sorting Hat and like comes and saves him. I think from the La Chupacabra or what, the Basilisk, whatever it's called.
I have not thought about that moment, but that's funny.
That's the Phoenix, dude. Cross section, dude. One thing I thought was I also am a huge Harry Potter fan. I don't know what the crossover would be at it, but I do love that you said that you love it. I love it. Other people love it because I found that what's common about Harry Potter is that positivity, that belief in magic, that underdog story, that like fighting against like chip on your shoulder.
Something that we've talked a lot about that I also think Harry Potter did really well, um, maybe to the chagrin of some parents, was it the audience level matured as the books matured. It was growing up with the audiences. You know, the additional sequences of the books evolved in the language that they were using, what was happening to the characters. And I think every successful IP has done that. Like think about Marvel and X-Men, like how they started and when they evolved to be the characters that we're seeing today on screens. They look and feel different than when we were watching them on Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, yeah, I agree that the mark of a prestigious work is evolution. I remember a book I liked as a kid was it was like the magic tree house or something, and like they would go in this like tree house and like go back in time, and 900 books later they were both still in fourth grade, and like it was it was pretty formulaic.
Yeah. Shel Silverstein, we were talking about the other day, actually.
Where the sidewalk ends, I think upside down, right?
The Giving Tree.
Giving Tree, yep. Oh, Giving Tree's powerful. Giving Tree is like dark,
Yeah.
like powerful. In the last 10 minutes, I guess promotes whatever they're working on. Obviously, you're the president of VeeFriends, but I give you the same opportunity. Do you want to shout out any, obviously the Reebok collab, like, do you want to shout that out or anything else that is, not alpha but officially released in the VeeFriends community, just to touch on that and give spotlight to you and the brand or any Andyism.
I appreciate the opportunity, and I've really enjoyed this time, Ian. Thank you. Reeboks, copper Reebok, if you want a nice, comfortable pair of kicks. I'm excited to just see those out in the wild. I hope one day I'm just like in an airport or walking around the streets of New York, and I just see someone that I don't know wearing a pair of the alpaca Reeboks. VCon, I'm really excited about. I'm excited about putting together the best event we've ever put together, the best event that anyone has ever been to because of the community, because of the vibes, because of the content and lessons and discoveries and curiosities that I think will take place through the content and programming that we have in store for next year. And other than that, I would just encourage everyone to fall in love with themselves. Falling in love with yourself is how you will give back to the world and to the people around you in the most powerful ways. Gary says you like in order to be selfless, you need to be selfish. And that's my interpretation of what it is like you have to love yourself. And if you love yourself, you can achieve anything you want.
I love that as well. And one way I said that is, if your cup don't runneth over, how are you going to fill someone else's? So you got to fill your cup first
If
to
your
to
cup
pour some in your
don't runneth
homies.
over, that's exactly right.
100%. And one other thing I'll say, I have the same feeling about wanting to see people wearing VeeFriends merch in public locations, and I have a bunch of the Bart Bridge hats, but the Bart Bridge hats are patch style hats, which are also not super common. So when you see someone with a patch style hat from this, I'm like grabbing from the back. I'm like, turn! Not literally, but you know what I mean. Like, I don't know. I just get so excited. I only saw one person in New York City that also was a V friend. But I will that we will continue to see more. Um, unless you have any last words, I'll go ahead and kind of close it out with the closing message, kind of same way we came in.
Um, Nothing else, man. I hope everyone's having a great summer. I hope you had a good summer. We have a jam-packed fall season at VeeFriends, which we've been working really hard on. We're going to continue to work hard. I'm putting together the programming for the remainder of the calendar year. I'll see you all at VCon 2024. And
Yes, you
thanks for
will.
having me on, Ian.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. Like you said, we took a while to plan it. I was eagerly awaiting it like an eager eagle. Gratitude, gorilla. We'll close out the podcast the way we always do, essentially the way we came in. We always do gratitude to the universe, God, source, magic, whatever you believe in, the power of the phoenix, Harry Potter, whatever, man. I'm cool with it. If you're outside of the regular and you're into any sort of magic or God I'm with it, dude. So if you're with that, gratitude and thanks for that. Gratitude to the guest. Thank you so much, Andy. So incredibly grateful. So appreciative to have you on. I see a world where we keep talking to each other, we keep having these meetings, and we end up on that bench where we're 99 years old, just kicking back, talking about how we had this podcast one day and how crazy it all was. We thank the audience. We love you guys. We love the audience. We love the V friends out there. We love everybody listening. We love people who are positive and passionate. We heard Andy today. This dude's about karma. This dude's about hard work. This dude's about patience. He's not looking to take a shortcut. He got to where he was by giving value. He didn't say, "What can you give me?" He said, "Hey, I'm going to give you myself and I'm going to show you what I'm worth. And then what you want to do is going to be your decision, but I'm right here, bro. So take a leap, do something, put yourself out there. If you don't have the ability to work for free, he also said build your portfolio, build a TikTok, build a YouTube, do all of them. Get on X. There's no Twitter anymore. Get on all of them. Post, more, more, more. Just keep doing, just keep going. And the final message that we have, that we always end the show with, is if you haven't heard it today, you are loved.
Crushed that.